Welcome, Gayl, on the me&my Health Up podcast show. So great to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here. Thanks, Anthony.
And where do you join us from?
I live in Austin, Texas, just outside of Austin, Texas, in the US of A.
Fantastic. Yes, I've had a few guests in the state of Texas, and in particularly Austin. So it's certainly a hub for wellness because I've interviewed
Yeah, it's a pretty progressive town. We call it like an oasis in the middle of Texas.
Beautiful. And just for the listeners, they would love to hear how you've arrived at what you're doing today.
Okay, so I actually started in psychology. I don't know, I've always had a fascination with the mind and the body and how things work together in life. It's just the flow of that. And so I grew up in Chicago and went to school there, and it just didn't really answer my questions. And we moved to the West Coast, and I had a baby, and that kind of re-stimulated my concept of, because the mind, it makes so much difference when you're going through the process, of this baby in labor, especially. And so I looked into midwifery, and I met an acupuncturist at a conference there, and he was teaching classes about acupressure, and that fascinated me. And we did some exchanges, and I just put my hand on these points on the body, and I started to feel, changes, electricity, and just something I couldn't really explain. So I looked into it a little bit more and learned about Taoism and, the symbol of yin and yang, that becomes kind of cliche now, but it's really a beautiful ancient symbol that represents balance in the world, and everything in nature is circular or spiralic. And that symbol of yin and yang suggests that we are dualistic. We have two aspects in us in life, just like day and night or male, female, but we're interconnected. And the idea of the yin and yang is to stay balanced through that interconnection. And so that made sense to me. And I just kept studying deeper, and I practiced body-mind acupressure for many years and taught all over America. And then I went into TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. I moved to New Mexico, and it became my life path. I was young. I was lucky to find my life path in my early 20s. And the passion continued to grow. And then I went to China, and I studied there, and I studied with some Qigong masters. And Qigong is part of Chinese medicine, actually. It means energy practice, or we call it energy cultivation, because when you practice Qigong, you're cultivating your energy, you're building awareness of it, you're building access to it, you're building sensitivity, you're enhancing your intuition. And so all of those things are like where our health is aligned, when we can align ourselves with purpose and stay healthy in our bodies by what we consume and our thoughts, what we think, and then do simple practices. We can continue to move through life and deal with the stresses and trauma that occur and are occurring in the world, especially today. So Qigong became kind of a central practice of mine. And then from there, I learned about heart math. Heart math was created by a group of scientists in California that studied the power of the heart. And it clicked for me, because in Chinese medicine, we say the heart is the monarch or the emperor. It's like the main organ of the body. Everything else circulates from the heart. And the HeartMath community actually proved that scientifically by using electrodes on the brain. And there's a sensor you can attach to your ear, an app you can download on your phone, and you can see wave patterns of stress turn into what we call coherency. And coherency is a sign of balance in the body. And so heart rate variability is kind of the lead in to this whole science of the heart. And when I decided to become a trainer in that too, because some people really like the science and they like to see, we're so digitally oriented now and we're in front of our screens all the time. And so it's easy to show people. And so because I also love education, that's why I'm excited to be here and to offer my knowledge and just to support of other people in the world to move toward their balance and, and just to enhance our health and wellness community, because we are a global community and now we have access to each other.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's kind of how I came back to the balance for myself, and the HeartMath has helped me too. And so I have a practice in acupuncture still. I teach Qigong and Tai Chi locally and then globally through seminars and summits. I do HeartMath trainings as well through Zoom usually. And I love it. It keeps me healthy and I can help others stay healthy.
Absolutely, you can, and that's why you're on the show today, to help us relieve our stress. And so we're going to be obviously talking about stress relief and the unbalanced lives we tend to live in this Western society of sort of, it's goal seeking and all about accomplishments and everything about being driven and, you've got to succeed and this is what success looks like. And it's all one-sided. Wow. Whereas what I love about, the traditional Chinese medicine is, as you said, it's all about taking a balanced approach. So this is going to be a really interesting conversation about this integration of helping the listeners find a more balanced approach to life. And let's start with heart rate variability and what it actually is, because, it's heart rate variability. People may not be familiar with HRV.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So heart rate variability is the variance between the beats of the heart. So we know our heart is basically a pump, and it's about the size of your fist, by the way. So you can even visualize it. And it pumps blood through the body. Well, they also discovered, and you may not be aware of this, I don't know, but that the heart is actually an endocrine organ. Because the doctors don't talk about that, but they discovered it in about 1984, I think, that the heart actually secretes hormones. And also it has its own brain. It has 40,000 neurons in it. And so it collects information and it secretes hormones into the bloodstream, as well as, pumping blood and oxygen, helping to oxygenate the muscles and nerves and everything. So the heart has a lot more capability than we first thought. And the heart rate variability is a way to measure how stressed a person is. And then also when you can watch that variance. So if you can imagine like your heartbeat is, going up and down, right? And it changes according to how we are. Like if we're relaxed, it's more settled. If we're excited or stressed, or if somebody, bangs something loud and you're like, oh, right, your blood pressure goes up. And so the heart rate variability, that's why it's called variability, it changes all the time, and that's normal. When we're healthy, that heart rate variability relaxes when we go to sleep. Like it changes according to our mood and our activity. But if somebody is under stress or if their adrenals are really depleted, Anthony, then that variance in the heartbeat doesn't change. It may be, if they're depleted, it may be really low all the time, even though they might feel happy. It's like it doesn't quite get there. Or if somebody is really high stress, like you were talking about, we're wanting to achieve, wanting to succeed, wanting to do, wanting, right? Then it's more of that sympathetic response, where we have adrenaline running all the time. And so then the spikes of the heartbeat are up a lot. And that's when people get high blood pressure, right? And then they often start taking medication to control what naturally you can control pretty easily just by knowing how to breathe consciously and move into more awareness with your heart. So I'm just going to go back to that heart rate variability one more time. So if you have imagine you have two peaks, like maybe two peaks of a mountain, and there's a distance between them. And then you measure each of those peaks and the distance between each of the peaks of the heartbeat. You can create a sine wave pattern, and that's what the heart math community uses. There's a program that creates a sine wave pattern, and then in that wave pattern, that is what really demonstrates your stress level or your relaxation level. So there's just an image that you'll see, those of you that have video, you'll see that, and you can also notice on the left side of the image, it's behind a person. Like if you're sitting, imagine, okay, you're sitting in a chair, maybe in your car, and you're stressed about something, you're feeling frustrated. Well, frustration is an energy that is jagged, and it feels that way, right? When you're frustrated, like, you want to, or you want to say something or do something, right? So it's this jagged kind of energy, and it actually shows up like that, when you have it on a screen, if you're testing your heart rate variability. And then once you notice that in yourself, though, you can change it by bringing your attention to your heart. And maybe I'll just lead you in a quick coherence technique right now. So if you're, those of you that are sitting, you want to just relax with your feet on the ground. If you're standing, you can just relax your lower back down. And then take some long, easy breaths. So you might want to count to 4 or 5 as you inhale, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale, 2, 3, 4, and inhale, 2, 3, 4, and just create a simple, easy, slower breathing pattern. And when you have that, then bring your attention to your heart, either your actual physical heart or the center of your chest, your spiritual heart. So you're breathing through that area, 2, 3, 4, 5 with an inhale, and 2, 3, 4, 5 as you exhale. Just continuing, you might think of the heart having a window, like you open the window and you're breathing through the window, allowing that air to flow through. And as you're consciously creating a little slower breath pattern for yourself, now bring a positive emotion into that. So keeping the breath pattern slow and simple, and bring in a positive feeling. Maybe it's a memory of something that made you happy recently, or beautiful plant, or the ocean where you live. Something that just naturally lights you up and makes you smile. And you breathe that through your heart. Just allowing yourself to access that positive feeling in that wave pattern that your breath has created. And then let it spread all throughout the cells of your body, because the heart is pumping this and nice, happy energy through your bloodstream, through your nervous system. And you can visually add your mind to that, your consciousness, your awareness, all through your body. Let it move through. Your cells are happy. And if there's something, I'm going to add a little Qigong to this. So if there's something that's calling you back, you can use your arms and just slowly push them out to the side. If you wanted to, those of you that are oriented toward movement, you can just move your arms out to the side from your heart, palms facing the chest. And then slowly, as you exhale, your arms push out to the side, just releasing anything that might be hooked in there. Just giving yourself a gesture of release. And then coming back to the center of your chest and just noticing how you feel.
I feel amazing. That was fabulous, Gayl. It was.
It's simple. That's called a quick coherence. And then I'm very kinesthetic. I'm a mover. I love Qigong. I love yoga. I love exercise. So I like to add that little bit of arm movement, sometimes or over your head. And it just kind of accentuates it for me. But not everybody's like that. Just enough with the breath and the mind.
It's fantastic. It's really energized me in doing that little exercise. I feel more energy. I feel more relaxed, definitely more relaxed. And when you asked me to picture something I love, I was picturing the beach, and then I pictured that window at the front of my heart and it being open, and then it's sucking in that beach image, and then that beach image went up to the mind and down through the body, down to the legs, and I could actually feel that energy flow. I could feel it was sort of like a lighter feeling, but energizing and very relaxed. That's probably the best way I could describe the feeling that was flowing through my body, and now it's still in my body. And I must say, I feel a lot more relaxed than when I started this interview.
Me too. Yeah, it's so great to know some of these simple techniques that can help you, through the day, and then share it with others. And another thing about heart rate variability that I find fascinating, and I think they're still doing studies with this, is that when a person like you and I were in coherence, and even though we're, I don't know how many thousands of miles apart between Australia and Texas, but energy is non-local, right? Which means that it's in another dimension. It doesn't matter about space and time. And so if we stayed with this, Anthony, and just really worked with building the sense of coherence and peace and joy, and then send it out to people we know, like many of them would honestly feel it even wherever they are, because there's a connection that we all have, being living human beings. And that's what I love about Qi. Like, to me, Qi, this is Qi. Like you said, you feel it flowing. That's Qi. That's your life force. That's what we describe as life force. And that is everywhere all the time. And when we bring our consciousness to it and then create a feeling, an emotion is energy in motion. It accentuates that. And what they found in the HeartMath community, when they're testing people and they use magnometers, which is some device that tests electromagnetic energy, and you can see the grid that, is all around us all the time, that some people might call our aura, right? Well, when two people are in coherence or come together and their energy is strong, they can see that energy, that field, because we create an energy field. It comes together and it starts to merge, and then it can grow as we put intention to it. So intention is really important also in relieving stress and creating deeper levels of coherence.
And so just getting back to that stress state and helping people find more balance, like you went through that fantastic practice of breathing and bringing in a bit of Qigong. It was amazing. So when can people, what are they looking out for in that stress state, like so that they could say, okay, that stress, I can now apply this technique that Gayl taught me. And so just sort of what sort of indications should they be looking out for to know that it's probably a good time to just sit and do the exercise?
That's a great question. And there's many levels to that question, right? Because honestly, I think we're all still in a bit of global trauma from the pandemic. But we're coming out of it, hopefully and fortunately. So stress can be, there's indicators of stress, like some people have their hands sweat. Other people feel tension, like neck, shoulder tension. Or stress also creates tightness in the chest, so less breath capacity. So you might notice you're not breathing, or you might feel like you're tense, or you might feel anxiety in your belly. All of those are indicators of stress. And what's happening is the adrenals are secreting stress hormones. It's the fight, flight, or flee part of us, part of our nervous system, right? Because we're animistic, we're animals in our bodies, and our bodies respond to stress, whether we're driving down the road, somebody runs in front of us, or we're preparing for a big meeting that we're nervous about, or we're in a global pandemic and it brings up fear about getting sick, or we know somebody that is sick or that died. Like all of those things can create these kind of body sensations. So first of all, just knowing what's going on in your body, like my throat's tight, my neck is tight, like even talking about it, I feel my body it can respond really easily to stress. Let's go back to that happy place.
Let's do the exercise again. I'm starting to feel tightness in my shoulders.
Yeah, but it's amazing, right? Like how the mind can it's easy to talk ourselves into it. And it's maybe not so easy to talk yourself out of it unless you cultivate your practice by recognizing, okay, now this is, something just happened in my world. I don't feel well. I'm not sure what's going on. Like, because sometimes you don't know. It's hard to identify what the feeling is. And especially people that I find that work intellectually all the time. You're on a screen and you're constantly producing information, and your brain is very active. It's sometimes hard to get in the body to know, oh yeah, I'm not breathing. What does that even mean? Like I've had people tell me that you're not breathing deeply. What do you mean?
Yeah, it comes down to that.
So anyway, those are indicators of stress, and just recognizing, okay, so I have something. Okay, let's just breathe. Let's make the breath, because see, the breath is a tool and an anchor for the mind, and it's like the mediator between the mind and the body. And we are always breathing. If we're not breathing, we're not alive. So it's involuntary. We can hold our breath, but you can never hold your breath and not wake up. It's going to just happen, right? So the breath is that mechanism, that force that we have that we can utilize consciously to move from a stress response into relaxation response. And that's what happens when we go to sleep, right? We move into a different state of being, different mindset. Well, when we know this technique, like I just demonstrated with heart math, and you can, as I'm talking, you can do it again. Just relax into your seat and then just start letting your breath be a little longer and slower than you naturally breathe. And as you lengthen the breath, then the parasympathetic nervous system starts to engage. And that's the other side of that sympathetic, the fight or flight response. And we have a nerve called the vagus nerve, which there's a lot of study around this now. It's the longest nerve in the body, moves, 10th cranial nerve through the neck and innervates the organs. So it's the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. And when we start to breathe and open our throat, open our chest, we allow that nerve conduction to become more efficient. And then our organs get, fed, and the tissues around them start to relax. And as then we consciously bring in like a nice feeling, a pleasant feeling, somewhere where we would rather be than like preparing for that meeting tomorrow that we're really stressed out about. But just for a moment, just let's come back to that pleasant feeling and allow it to spread consciously. And the more you use the mind and the breath and your intention, those are the three factors of Qigong: mind or intention, the breath. Well, and honestly, it's posture is the third one, because mind and intention really go together. So the other one is the body. You relax your body, keeping your spine straight, and then bringing your intention and your breath into your body. And that's when suddenly you notice, oh, I don't feel so stressed anymore. My neck is looser. I can take a longer breath. And then you can think more clearly, because we call that coherence in the heart math community. Or in the Qigong community, we call it the Qi state. We're in the state of where our life force is. It's a balance between our mental clarity and our physical clarity. So when our bodies are more relaxed, but like you said, Anthony, you felt relaxed, but you were also energized, right? And I hear this a lot from people. I feel relaxed, but I feel more alert than I was. So then we can focus better. We can think more clearly and focus more carefully on things.
And I've heard people talk about that, that state of qi, or the optimal coherence, or in that coherent state, as like their green zone, their state of which Anthony Robbins may call it his peak state, but it's that state where you feel totally ready for anything. It would be a great practice to do before important meetings. I can imagine a good practice to do to disconnect from the day, to wind down for sleep, to really allow that slowing of the breath, switching or down regulating the sympathetic nervous system and switching on the parasympathetic, or up regulating that, and just really allowing that good transition between, I guess, could be coming home from work and wanting to be in a good state to see your family.
That's right. Preparation really helps us sustain the state that we want to live in.
And is there any other key tips you have around stress relief. So obviously you've walked us through a fantastic exercise around, connecting breath and then bringing in bodily movements to enable those kinesthetic people to get more into the practice. Is there anything else that you advocate for in terms of stress relief?
Sure, lots of things actually, because sometimes the stress is so heightened that the long breaths don't quite do it because there's so much energy pumping through there, right? And so then you could do tapping, like we tap in Qigong. You tap through the meridians, down the arms, your chest, your belly, like that stimulation all through the body. When you tap the skin, you stimulate the capillaries, and you literally release energy that way. And then after the tapping, you feel like, oh, now I can breathe. And maybe you take a sigh of relief, like a conscious, and do that again. Or we do some shaking where you just shake. It looks really silly, but it works. And that's a great way to release like heightened stress in the body. And then once you have it released and you're able to recognize, okay, I can breathe a little better. I feel a little more in my body. Then you can do some smoothing of the channels. And that's just a simple brush with your arm, like start at your heart again, brush down your arm all the way to your palm, and then around the arm and the back of the arm and up and over the shoulders, and then the other side. And you're basically just lightly brushing the skin, smoothing the channels all through the body. You inhale, your palms are up over your face and then down your head and neck, and brush it all the way down the body. And it feels delicious. It feels so nice to let these little nerve endings, relax after they've been energized and then released. And literally the chi flows more freely in the channels and in a more balanced way. So in Qigong practice, we do these exercises in very specific patterns for the meridians. But even if you don't know the meridians, it doesn't matter. You just do it. You just tap wherever, you're having tension. Tap your belly, your diaphragm, and then just lightly brush your skin. And pretty soon you'll feel like, okay, I can handle this now, whatever it is, So that's another simple technique that really is effective.
I love that pattern disrupt, as I think, Anthony Robbins or NLP therapists would call it, disrupting the pattern in terms of, as you said, that sort of vigorous tapping or the shaking, the wiggling, or just something that really just breaks the state and then enables you to go into a new state, which you indicated through that smoothing action on your skin. You're taking yourself into that more parasympathetic state because it's smooth, and you've interrupted that sort of, as you said, that frustrated state that you described earlier. And sometimes, if you've had a rough day and you're exhausted, but you can't sleep because your mind is so active, those kind of exercises, along with stretching and things, can help the body just finally relax. And then you can come back to some simple, more meditative practices like the long, elongated breath. And so I like to use a mix of things. Okay. I was thinking when you mentioned that pattern disrupt, or that just jolting the system and stopping it from, continuing in that incoherent state. I was thinking of the hot and cold baths, the hydrotherapy. I've been doing that recently, and you jump into the cold bath, and that's a real pattern disrupt. It just wakes you up, it's a shock to the system. And then then you jump into the warm bath and you just relax, and the energy, you start to feel the flow of warmth come, or circulation improve through your body. So that's that I was sort of drawing that parallel when you're talking about.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Yeah, and it's true. It's basically you want to disrupt a pattern of stress, which is the jagged heart rate variability, right? And then smooth it out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic, Gayl. And how can the listeners best connect with you if they want to know more about like this Qigong practice or the heart math that you do? How can they best connect with you?
Oh, thanks. I guess through email would be the best way, which is Gayl, Gayl, at blueheroncenter.com. BLUEHERONCENTER.com. It's my website.
Fantastic. And I'll include that link in the show notes for the listeners. So the listeners can just go straight to the show notes, click on the link, and it'll go directly to your website. And they'll obviously learn more about what you do. And I'll also include the email address so that they can then contact you and reach out to you for more assistance around relaxing in this stressed world that we live in.
Yeah. Thank you. It's my pleasure to share any of this and all of this.
And do you have any concluding words for the listeners around stress relief?
Well, I was thinking about it too. Stress. We in the TCM or traditional Chinese medicine world, stress is just stuck energy. We call it stuck qi or stagnant qi, right? And if you think about that, because people often will just say, "Oh, I'm stressed. How can I manage my stress?" Well, I don't really like that word manage so well, because if you're managing stress, that means it's still there. Why not transform it? Why not transform the stagnant energy, let it flow and clarify, and really turn it into something that you desire, that you prefer? And so if you think of, like, often we use the analogy of the river system. The meridians or energy flows in the body are like rivers, and they can get stagnant if the water builds up, there's too much debris. And so then you might need, some cleansing. You might need to eat cleaner, drink more water, let yourself cleanse a bit. Do these practices to allow that qi then to flow, and then use some heart math technology, bring in a positive feeling and a positive intention of what you want to create in your life. If it's in this moment or this day or the next year. Once we keep imbibing our thoughts and speaking about it with others, I believe in the law of attraction, then suddenly things start showing up for us, doors open. And so pretty soon you're not just managing the stress of your job or your relationships or whatever, but you're literally transforming that energy into a more positive way of life. And then things change. And maybe your circumstance, you didn't move or you didn't change jobs, but suddenly things look differently. People respond to you differently because you're different.
That's a great analogy. I love that river of flow, and I'm thinking of the river of qi, the river of energy, the river of love, and going through the body. And if it gets blocked for whatever reason, if a stagnant or a relationship that's not going well would result in some block in a meridian within the body because the flow of love is not going throughout the body. And so I love this, but I love how you take that saying it's stagnant, and then it's all about the transformation into something better, the positive. It's like, see the stress as not something bad, but as something that you can then create into a positive and transform
because it's just
yourself.
energy. We're made of energy.
Fantastic, Gayl. I've really enjoyed the conversation today, and I'm sure the listeners have as well. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's so fun to be with you, Anthony. And thanks so much for allowing us to, come into this platform and meet each other and learn from each other. It's awesome. Really fantastic.
And straight back to you in terms of huge amount of gratitude for you putting aside the time and imparting your wisdom with the listeners. And to the listeners, thanks for tuning in to another insightful episode of Me and My Health Up. If you've loved the episode, please share it with others. We really want to get this information out to the rest of the world to really help them, take that stagnant sort of state into a state of transformation and becoming who they really want to become. So let's get the word out there. Please share it. Please like it. Please leave a review so that we can reach more people. So thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned in for more insightful episodes of Me and My Health Up.